Now, this company has gone on to implement incredible automation, but first they made their manual operation lean, and now they've gone back and automated, improved productivity. Not a layoff in sight. You can't be a lean company if you don't embrace visual workplace, and that's labeling, and it's cleanliness, and it's making sure there's no clutter, so that if you don't use something, you get rid of it, or preferably give it to Goodwill or something like that. But they needed a lot of help, and to get their product to their customer took them about 6 weeks. We took it to 2 days.
It seems to me like helping others is really a passion for you, whether it's consulting or teaching. Is that sharing of knowledge or just expertise something that really drives you? And is that what you would say is your primary passion in life, just sharing the expertise that you've built over the decades?
You know, I won't share my whole purpose because it gets kind of personal. But one of them is that there's a couple of key things there. And I say this to myself once a week. And that is help my clients and colleagues be successful. A simple statement, but once a week I say to myself, why am I here? You know, why did I end up in wherever I ended up? There's got to be a reason for me being here, and I strive towards that purpose, Raj. And one of them is help clients and colleagues be successful, and the other one is help my students grow their knowledge and careers. So I say that to myself, and you know, you say it enough times, and you know, whether it's a passion or it's my purpose. So if I have a reason to be here, now I've got a bunch of other things around my family that are very important there, but those are two things that I remind myself I'm here to do that.
That's awesome. I think the way that you present yourself, and even the fact that, for example, you offer your time very generously, really reflects that. When you say that you've worked with 100 plus companies as a consultant, and I'm sure in terms of the students you've taught, there's hundreds, if not thousands, that you've taught. Do you have any that come to mind where you had an unforgettable experience? Maybe it was just a mess prior to you going into a company, for example, and you were able to turn it around. Do you have any examples like that you care to share or you think might be extremely interesting?
I've got lots of them, but one company jumps to mind, and then actually I have a student that comes to mind. Can I say her name?
Yeah, if you're okay with it.
Hopefully she's okay with it. So for one company, and this is my third client. You look back, by the way, it's 153, but you know, who's counting clients that we've worked with. And as you mentioned, big companies, you know, the big brand names that you could say, and then lots of companies, Raj, just like yours, the medium-sized businesses. That's our bread and butter. But we do work with large corporations. But this one was a medium-sized company, client number 3, and they were a manufacturing company. They needed so much help. Now, by the way, I want to caution that they were a successful, money-making company about to turn over to the third generation of the family running the company. So, you know, there's no disaster. There's no, you know, negative comment to me. I have no critique. I never have critique from my clients. And there were almost all of them successful, well-run companies that want to do better. And that was this company. But they needed a lot of help. And to get their product to their customer took them about 6 weeks. We took it to 2 days. They were throwing out about 9% of scrap rate, we call it. 9% of their product got scrapped, and we got it down to much less than 1%. They were operating on 3 shifts. We figured out how to do it in a shift and a half. We broke down walls, and when I mean that figuratively and literally, that we broke down walls, because one of the things that we wanted to do was connect two things that were on the other side of the wall. And I went to the owner, Jeremy, and I said, "Hey, can we take down that wall? That might be asking too much, but it would really help if we took down that wall." And much to my surprise, and he is a very disciplined business owner, and we took down that wall. And now they're seen as a world-class manufacturing operation, and earlier they were getting complaints from their customers, and they're fantastic people. They're incredibly generous, and so it really feels good to help somebody like that.
Can you share some of what you implemented or helped them implement? Because those are massive improvements that we're talking about here.
Yeah, a lot of lean comes down to those words, swift and even flow. And you go, well, how do you do that? And actually, the way you do it in many cases is stuff that's been around for decades, hundreds of years, maybe even millennia. And that's doing time studies and doing mapping. And so what we do is we look at the current state. We get some data, how long things take, how far people travel, how much you use that particular widget. If you use a lot of a certain type of paint, then we want that front and center, easy to access. And we laid out the process, both the physical and the information flow, to make it easy for people to do that work. And so that's really what it came down to, is designing through time studies and mapping and gathering some data and doing a little bit of mathematics around it, calculating how many people we need, calculating how much inventory we need to create swift and even flow, so that you're not making 1,000 of something and pushing it somewhere. You're making one of something and handing it off to the next person, or making 10 of something and handing it off to the next person. And that person knows exactly what they should be getting, building quality into the process so that every time there's a handoff, I know that I should be getting this. I do a quick visual check. I may do a measurement. If it doesn't, I didn't waste 1,000 and scrap them. I give them back to the person. I work with them. We're teammates. And remember, deep and profound respect for the people that do the work. And so we create that teamwork environment. Now, this company has gone on to implement incredible automation. But first, they made their manual operation lean. And now they've gone back and automated and improved productivity. Not a layoff in sight. They've just grown the company and didn't need to add people because people are now working with their automation. So I don't know if that kind of gives a quick feel of how lean works in this.
Yeah, it does. So it doesn't have to be this example. It could be any company you've worked with. Do you have an example that comes to mind of something that was, in hindsight, maybe very obvious or easy to implement, but the company wasn't seeing it or the leadership wasn't seeing it?
I'll actually maybe say that there was something that I didn't see. So we worked with a company. I remember the project. This is a long time ago, but we work a lot on inventory. It just is sort of a natural part of our supply chain and lean services, getting people to have the right amount of inventory of whatever inventory that is. Again, could fit your world, could be a finished goods distributor that you buy that paint from, could be the manufacturer that has to keep a certain amount of raw materials on hand. And I remember the first time we worked with that, we were working on a bus distributor's sales process. Because I wrote a white paper, an article on lean sales or something, and someone said, hey, that might make sense. Actually, it was a Vistage member and a Vistage chair that looked at that and said, I think it could apply to this company. I want you to talk to Gary. And I talked to him, and he thought it made sense, and we worked on. And while we were doing that, they had a warehouse. And I kind of looked at that, and I'm like, why do you have that much of that? And why do you have, and how much is that turning? And all of a sudden, we looked at that inventory as a tremendous opportunity to satisfy customers. I think people look at inventory as it's costing me money, but we look at it as a competitive weapon for fulfilling customer demand or satisfying customers. And so I know that wasn't a specific, but that was almost a wake-up call to us in my firm that that's another place that we could apply those same type of principles, a little bit of math, a little bit of mapping, a little bit of data gathering, and create, again, what's always the goal: eliminate non-value-added work. Well, in this case, it's eliminating unnecessary purchases and creating swift and even flow so you have what you need to take care of customers. And I'll never forget that it was just sort of looking around the warehouse thinking, I belong here. We should be helping you with that. And they said yes. And now inventory is easily a third of the work we do is help, maybe more, half, with inventory.
In terms of inventory, if you were, before we sat down and started recording, you walked through our warehouse here. If you were to just give me one or two things that jumped out to you in terms of things that we should do, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts there. And just for context, we're, of course, an apartment owner-operator, and our warehouse it's not overly disorganized, but it's one area of opportunity for us to improve upon, where we know we want to get better in terms of our inventory management. So was there anything that stood out to you when you walked through there for the 2 or 3 minutes that we spent in there?
Yeah, one of the key lean principles, and it falls under this lean system design, is visual workplace. So I would say it's even hard to manage your inventory until your workplace is easy for you to see all that inventory. And I'm not just talking about the consumables, I'm talking about the tools and the ladders and everything that you could use, the equipment that you might use in order to do your work or to take care of your apartments. And so if there's anything that's still, again, you can't be a lean company if you don't embrace visual workplace. And that's labeling, and it's cleanliness, and it's making sure there's no clutter, so that if you don't use something, you get rid of it, or preferably give it to Goodwill or something like that. And then you set standards. So you might have some posters up that say, hey, this is what this place should look like at the end of the day. In the middle of the day, people are working. It's okay for it to look a little bit messy. But at the end of the day, you put it back, it should look like this. And then finally, you as president of the company, Raj, are committed to it. So you're going to go walk through it once a week and do what we call an audit, and give the results to your VP of Ops and say, here's the things that I saw. And so our clients that embrace this the most, they're the leanest, they're the most profitable, and the people in charge of the company are in charge of this effort.
When we talk about visibility, would software also tie into that in terms of, if we have some sort of inventory management software where you can see exactly what kind of stock we have and what we have on hand?
Yeah, when it gets into visibility, I'll say, and I like to talk about this term. It's what I call in business. I call it the F word in business, and that's forecasting.
I thought you were going to say something else.
You probably were. People have a lot of words for that, and so I think visibility of and you could go, hey, my forecast isn't accurate, and I'll be like, well, sure, pick your deity of preference. And they're probably good at forecasting, but the rest of us are just humans. We got to deal with the fact that we're not going to have perfect forecast. And if you can get over that, you go, that's visibility. And so it's not right, but it's better than a total guess, or it's better than somebody who's buying your products just going, well, I take what I used the last 3 months and I average it out, and that's what I buy. And I don't know if you have seasonality in your business, but
we do.
Yeah, I think almost everybody does. And I would guess that looking back 3 months and projecting that forward may not be the best way to figure out how much you need to buy. And so visibility into potential demand turns right into inventory.
I'm sure over the last 20 plus years, you've seen software play a bigger and bigger role in business processes, inventory management, just that forecasting, absolutely everything. When you first started out, was it more so manual processes for inventory or other business processes as well? Starting out, I don't want to say everything was manual, but the mathematics and the ease of use of the software, it just became easier. And so forecasting is an example of that those tools might be beyond what you could afford. Well, now they're becoming pretty affordable and much easier for mid-sized businesses to use. So I think everything is moving towards, and by the way, as this is happening, as everything's moving towards being easier to use, the people that are really good at it, and there's one company that's really good at it, and they're called Amazon. I like to call them the big A, because they're out there. They keep moving the bar. But eventually that pulls down to the mid-sized companies. In fact, my consulting work, a lot of it revolves around how can I take the mathematics, the capability, all those things that Amazon does so well, and how can I spread it mostly to mid-sized businesses. And we got corporate clients because they've kind of figured out that we know what we're doing, but we started the company to help, the average operationally, oriented mid-sized company. And some of it is software. Some of it is, by the way, software, if you really look at what it is, oftentimes it's called mathematics.
That's why, as a computer science, the people that write the code are all mathematicians. And I think that's the thing people forget about. They think it's just code. But if you're going to write code, you got to know math. And if we could help our clients understand that math, if we can make it easy to use, then they can gain those advantages just like Amazon does.